He said it loud enough for everyone at the table to hear. "You'll always be second to your sister." The laughter in the room faded instantly. Forks froze halfway to mouths. My mother's smile turned stiff. And me? I just sat there, calm, my hands folded neatly in my lap. It was her birthday dinner, after all, the last one I'd ever attend as his disappointment. He had no idea, of course. He didn't know that the house we were sitting in, the one he proudly boasted about paying off, actually belonged to me. He didn't know that the man he often mocked for lacking ambition was the same person who managed the mortgage he thought he'd conquered. Every sip of wine, every inch of that roof over his head, all of it came from the daughter he had just belittled. So I smiled slowly and said, "Let's see who's second when the rent is due." The silence that followed was complete. It wasn't always like this. There was a time I would have done anything to make him proud. When I was little, I trailed behind him into the garage, pretending to help fix the car. He'd let my sister pass him the wrench, tell her how smart she was, and then turn to me with a gentle, dismissive smile. "Go make coffee for Mom." He never said it cruelly, but even at 9, I understood what it meant to be brushed aside. By 16, I stopped trying. By 25, I moved out. By 30, I had built something on my own, quietly, patiently, without ever needing his name. A property investment firm, anonymous ownership, clean, legal, and impossible to trace back to me. 5 years later, when my parents decided to downsize and buy their dream home, I stayed out of it, at least on the surface. I just made sure the paperwork passed through one of my holding companies. That house became my first quiet victory. The real betrayal wasn't that night at dinner. It was everything that came before. The ignored calls, the missed graduations, the way he introduced my sister as the successful one and referred to me as the other one still figuring things out. But I wasn't figuring things out. I was watching, learning, building. He unknowingly taught me something important, that approval means nothing if it has to be earned through humiliation, and that silence can carry more power than shouting ever could. When the chance came, after the original owners defaulted on the mortgage for the house my parents loved, I didn't hesitate. I bought it under a new company name, rented it out through a middleman, who then leased it to them. Everything above board, perfectly professional, completely detached. My mother always said I had my father's patience. What she didn't realize was that I'd also inherited his precision. I discovered his hypocrisy by accident. A month before that dinner, I saw a message on my mother's phone. He'd been hiding money again, gambling on small business stocks, secretly pulling from her savings. He promised her he'd reinvest it. She didn't confront him, said it was just his pride. That's when I decided the birthday dinner would be more than just a celebration. It would be a turning point. I planned everything carefully. I offered to host, reserved the same restaurant where he used to take clients back when his career still had something to brag about. I paid for the private room, the flowers, the wine. He didn't question it. He never did when someone else took care of the details. And I made sure the lease notice would be delivered the next morning. Not an eviction, just a standard rent adjustment. A 10% increase. Enough to sting. Enough to remind him how it feels to lose control. And right there, under the signature line, he'd find the property owner's name. Eleanor Holdings. My middle name. The one he always forgot. After his outburst that night, my sister tried to speak.
Dad, that's... But I lifted a hand, calm and steady. No, let him finish. He didn't. He just stared at me, brows drawn, as my words began to sink in. When I repeated, "Let's see who's second when the rent is due," I watched the color drain from his face. He turned to my mother. "What's she talking about?" I looked straight at him. "The house you call yours?" I said quietly. "It's not. You've been paying me rent for 3 years." His hand trembled slightly as he held his glass. I took another sip of wine, steady, composed. "I didn't plan it that way," I lied softly, "but maybe it's poetic." My mother's eyes filled with tears, not anger, but relief. She knew. She'd known longer than I realized. She didn't stop me because she, too, had lived in his shadow. After dinner, I stayed behind while they left. The waiter cleared the table in silence. I felt no guilt, no satisfaction, just peace. For the first time, I wasn't chasing his approval or shrinking from his disappointment. He couldn't touch me anymore, not with his words, his pride, or his false authority. He built his world on borrowed money and borrowed respect. I built mine on ownership, quiet, solid, absolute. The next morning, he called. His voice was small, uncertain. "I got the notice. Is this really you?" "Yes," I replied. A long pause, then almost a whisper. "Why?" I smiled to myself. "Because, Dad," I said softly, "because you always told me to learn the value of hard work. I just wanted you to experience it too." That month and every month after, they paid the rent on time. He never made another comment about who came first, because deep down, he knew. He was living in my house under my roof. And for the first time, I didn't need his approval, just his signature.